move from this space where you've been victimized and you've been hurt by people, and you can move into this space. Let's get clear on your next direction, on your next life. Let's meet yourself again.
Hey, you. Thanks for tuning in. Just a quick heads up, this episode is rated PG-13, so expect to hear some mild language or adult concepts.
Hello, Radiant Rebecca.
Hey, Shawn. How's it going?
I'm doing great today. I have a question for you. I have a story and then a question that I want to ask you.
Okay.
We've talked about before, and you know that I grew up with an abusive dad. And the story that I want to talk about today was, just real quickly, when I was about 15, I think a lot of young boys kind of go through this spot where they start flexing their muscles a little bit, especially with their dad, where they try to take on a little bit more of a masculine role and try to figure out who they are in their life. And there was a time when my dad and I were in an argument of some kind. I don't remember what it was, but I remember we were at the breakfast table and I said some flippant remark and he like fired right up, grabbed me by the shirt, lifted me up and slammed me against the wall and was threatening to hit me. And I remember just being, the dude was like 225, 240. And I was probably 150 pounds at the time. And I just remember being terrified and frustrated and humiliated that all of this was happening, right? Because I was just doing what, I didn't know it at the time, but having raised a boy myself, I know that it's a normal process. I was just doing what all boys do, but I got this violent attack. And that affected me through a good part of my life. The reason I'm telling that story is because I found somebody who was able to take that story and take away the emotional charge from it. So now I remember that the thing happened. I remember that I got slammed up against the wall, but I don't feel that sense of shame and that sense of anger and that sense of frustration anymore. And so that person, what I'm wondering, the question is, do you want to meet that person?
Oh my gosh, I think I have already met this person. You gave too much away in your story. I know who it is. This must be Heather Maccabee, who you turned me on to years ago, and I have been working with for 3 years, 4 years. I can't remember. Heather, do you remember?
Hi, everyone. Love that intro. Rebecca, I would say it's at least 4. Yeah. It was when I lived in Washington.
Wow.
Yeah.
It has been a good 4 years.
It has. It's been lovely.
Yeah. So, Shawn, you brought Heather on the show. Tell me why? What's up?
Well, the first and foremost reason is Heather is one of my most favorite people in the world. The second reason is because that's not the only thing that she has been able to help me kind of get past on an emotional level. I've worked with Heather for years as well, and there has been countless things that I don't even actually remember that we've worked on because my world has changed. My life has changed so much because of the work that we've done. So the work that Heather does, Heather, you want to tell us about the work that it'll be better hearing it from you. Why don't you tell us about the work you do?
I think the short story, I assist people in erasing the beliefs that keep them from love, connection, and belonging. So when I say erase, that's why what you said is I don't even remember these things because my life has changed so much. Because we rewired your brain, we rewired your nervous system so that those past events of hurt are no longer affecting you today.
And, I got to say, I have been around for those 4 years and watched you as you've been going through this process. And it's been interesting. I don't think I knew the whole time that you were getting your brain all cleaned up and spiffy and ready. But I did know that this is my friend Shawn, who's always doing something really powerful. He's learning to take time for himself, and he's stepping into community and leadership in powerful ways. He's wanting to fulfill his dream of having a band. So fuck yeah, he's doing it. I don't know. It's been really fun to be your friend and to be in your life and to watch this. And now maybe I know what was spurring some of those big, deep changes in you. Hey.
The powerful person behind the powerful person.
All right.
Well, wow.
I like powerful people. So
yeah, you do.
So tell me more, Shawn. What is the key here that makes it so powerful and so quick to make changes while working with Heather?
I like to think things sometimes that from of a spiritual person, but I like to think of things as well from like a scientific aspect as well. And when I think about the work that Heather does, there's two things that come to mind. Number one, like with music, for example, if somebody in the room is playing a bass guitar and they hit a string and that sound is on the same vibration as my guitar, that particular string on my guitar will ring out as well. Same thing if you play a note and maybe some music loud in the house and you have a glass sitting on the table. If that same vibration reaches, the glass has the same vibration as the music that you're playing, the glass itself will vibrate. So that resonance then makes both things vibrate at the same time. And one of the other exploration self-development programs that I've done before talked about, they called it the realm of now versus the realm of meaning. So for me, the realm of now was my dad threw me up against a wall when I was trying to stand up for myself a little bit, threatened to hurt me, violence, that sort of reaction to it. The meaning that I attached to that when I was 15 years old is I shouldn't stand up for myself because there's bad consequences. I'm not a very strong person because look, this person overpowers me, things like that. So the realm of now, the realm of meaning is what our brain attaches to the event. What I love about Heather's work and what I've experienced with her is that she can detach that meaning from the event. So the event still happens, but now I no longer resonate with because that happened to me. That doesn't mean that I'm not powerful. That doesn't mean that I have to stay quiet. That doesn't mean that I can't stand up for myself, etc. And I think that's what I love the most about Heather's work is that by detaching ourselves from that meaning, by no longer resonating with that meaning, we're now free to operate in the way that we're supposed to operate inside the world.
Yeah, and now you resonate with a more accurate and truthful meaning of like someone took advantage of a boy, right? That's not okay. And that's the reality of the situation, not I'm unhelpful or I shouldn't stand up for myself.
And from there, I can flip to the spiritual side where I can now resonate with how do I want to operate as a man in this world? How do I want to bring myself out to the world? How do I want to interact with other people and with other events that happen?
I loved your description. I also like to bring in how powerful our brains are, because that event for you happened at 15 and you were still resonating with those pieces of shame that you attached to yourself rather than to your dad, because that it really was his shame that you were carrying for him. So with the word, we can rewrite that story. It doesn't mean the story didn't happen. The event happened. He threw you up against a wall. But yes, that meaning behind it, the feelings that you were still attaching to it, that you were carrying forward, that actually belonged to him, you've now put back in the right location. He can have those, and you can live your life as the man that you want to live and the father that you want to be.
That opens up the door to another part of the work that you do, Heather, that I think is so important, of releasing generational patterns, releasing patterns that we've learned as a child, maybe even before we were born, or just that people have been handing down for generation after generation in our family line. Can you talk more about that?
I would love to, because that is my main mission, to end generational trauma patterns. We've even found now through science, through epigenetics, that traumas are passed down through our DNA to our children. And so the cells are storing those events, and our children are born with these pieces of them that are already hardwired for bad things happening. And so with this work, we're able to change the frequency of the cells so that they are no longer carrying the traumas. The statistics show right now that 4 out of 7 children are experiencing abuse. Events like you talked about, or more. Neglect, sexual, lack of food. There's all kinds of ways that you can define abuse. So if the statistics are 4 out of 7, that's a giant number of people. The statistics are also saying that 30% of people who have been abused are continuing to abuse their children or somebody else. That's a large large number. And I think it's extremely important right now for everyone to be looking about how do we change these generational trauma patterns? How do we put an end? How do we draw a line in the sand that says it stops with me and it's not going forward from here?
I think that's a fascinating aspect of this as well, because I have two children, of course, that you know, and young adult children now, and they did not experience the physical and emotional abuse that I experienced as a child. However, I know that there was mistakes that I made, and there's certainly some things that they'll probably have to come to you and work on themselves as well. And I also, because like what you're talking about there, I also understand that there's things that my dad did to me and that my grandpa did to my dad and so on that are still affecting both of those kids as well until it gets cleared up either through me, through them, but somehow through this work that you're doing.
That is correct. Yes. If you think of life energy, if you want to be somewhat spiritual, if you think of life energy like a waterfall flowing, think about the biggest waterfall that you can think about. And just imagine the very top of it is your oldest ancestor. And as that water continues to flow, you have all these people in your lineage, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and the water all the way down to the bottom gets to you. If it's flowing beautifully and there's nothing constricting it, you have all of this water. You have all of this energy, because that's what the water is representing, is your life energy. When you start bringing in the traumas your dad experienced, the traumas his dad experienced, those are like log jams or debris that's getting put into the water that's flowing on that waterfall. If you go back 20 generations, I know some of your sessions, Shawn, there's been things that have come back 16 generations. Think about 16 generations back, how many people that is, how many logs are in that waterfall. There's barely a trickle left of water for you. And if you don't have all the water that you need, you don't have energy for your children, you don't have energy for your work. Your life energy is literally drying up. So our work right now is to remove those log jams so that you have the energy and the water starts flowing properly.
That's a really interesting analogy. I don't think I've ever heard of it like that, as a waterfall flowing from your ancestors down to you. I don't know how much it feels accurate for me to base my life choices on, but it does feel interesting, at least in a mythological perspective, anthropologically speaking.
It provides a nice visual. Everyone knows what a waterfall looks like and what it looks like when you jam up water.
Yeah.
I think there's also some systemic evidence of it. I mean, most people are not very motivated. Most people don't have a whole lot of energy for anything except for the necessities. I think there's definitely an argument that can be made that we can feel in the world right now the evidence of that waterfall being jammed up over generations and generations.
Yes. And when this is a huge topic, and we could talk about it for 9 more podcasts. There's also other things that have to be brought in when you're thinking about generational trauma patterns, because like for you, Shawn, with your dad not behaving properly as a man and as a father figure, then sometimes those roles can get reversed. And so if you become the man of the household and he's acting more like an adolescent, like he threw the fit at the breakfast table, you were just trying to stand up for yourself. So when the roles start to get reversed, now think about the waterfall with the ancestors, and now you're on top of your dad. There's literally nothing for you, and you're completely blocked from receiving anything from your father because you have to get your life energy from your parents. This, like I said, this is a really big subject, but that's just kind of a tiny little tip of the iceberg.
That would be a fun extra podcast that maybe we could do. And I think, just based on what I know that you're right, that that's a huge subject. However, that does kind of lead into something else that Rebecca and I were talking about would be a fun thing to discuss with regard to your work. Rebecca, you mentioned a book that some of the people in your life are reading and some of your experiences with some of the men in your life.
Yeah. So the book is called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it's got a fairly provocative title. But as I'm reading it, because it's been so interested to so many people, as I'm reading it, I'm seeing that I think it's actually really about shame, and anybody who has shame in their past can use this. I know I have. A lot of the things that he's talking about to get past this, or well, he calls it to stop being Mr. Nice Guy and to become an integrated man. But the process he encourages to do that is to find safe people that you can be open and vulnerable with, and slowly grow into a more responsible human. And to me, it feels exactly like what I've gone through, a lot of it with the Abraham Hicks community, but I think you both probably have other communities that have been your safe spaces where you could be vulnerable and expand and grow your responsibility. And I'm curious about that. This book talks about it specifically in regards to men, and men that have been raised by women but not really socialized to be healthy men by other men. And anyway, I just thought that was fascinating to me right now. And speaking of generational patterns, that definitely sounds like one.
If you could see what was happening right now, I'm raising my hand enthusiastically when Rebecca was talking about being raised by women and without a healthy male perspective. In fact, Heather, we've done quite a bit of work on that. And you were, with regard to like Mr. Nice Guy, like I think that I'm a pretty nice guy. However, the nice guy that I think that we were talking about that they're referring to in that book is the guy that is manipulative and allows himself to be manipulated. And I can certainly say with emphasis that the work that I've done with Heather has stopped me from being that kind of Mr. Nice Guy, and still being somebody that is kind, compassionate, and protective and caring, but not somebody that will allow himself to be manipulated. Heather, we did a session on this just 30 days ago. And to be honest with you, I know the shift that I have made in the last 30 days, but I don't remember a whole lot about what we talked about and about the session. Can you help the audience kind of, we can go through, we have my permission to go through all that private material. Like I'll tell you this, Rebecca, about Heather. You said that she works with you. I don't know when she works with you. I didn't know that you were working. Like, this is all information that has come from you. Heather has been meticulous about the privacy of the people that she works with that may have some sort of connection to each other. And I really appreciate that I can trust her. I can trust her absolutely implicitly with the information that I give her, and that she's not going to, she'll not only will she not tell somebody about what we talked about, she won't even tell them that we work together. So Heather has some incredible integrity with that. So that's my
so then I get to share all of my dirty laundry with you directly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is so much more intriguing. So this is my long way of saying, Heather, you have my permission to talk about that session specifically and kind of help the audience understand what happened there.
My favorite example of not sharing, being meticulous, I was working with a couple and I saw him and then I saw her, and they were back to back and living in the same home. And I was getting off the Zoom call with him and I said, okay, I have to go. I'm getting ready for another client. And then he left and she came on. And later that day, the two of them talked and they were like, oh my gosh, you're the client that she had to get off for. That's my favorite story with that one.
That's very fun. I feel like I could outdo you a little bit. Do you guys want to hear?
Sure.
I was on a date with a lover in public, and there was someone else there that was wanting to go on a date with me a couple days later, which was really exciting. That's pretty fun.
We have to be very careful when we're dealing with people's lives. So your session, Shawn, it was literally on January 19th, almost exactly 30 days ago. Good memory.
Look at that.
You came to me and you said, I want to increase my masculinity so my feminine partner trusts me. That was the gist of what we wanted to accomplish today. Okay. So statements that came up for you, because when we're in session, I'm muscle testing your unconscious mind to see what the limiting patterns are that are keeping you in this problem space. And so when we pulled out what the unconscious were, it was, I have lots of trouble with women. And you're like, well, yeah, that's why I'm here. But then the things that came was nothing's ever good enough for them. I'm useless. And then there was also my professional life. When my professional life is successful, My private life is a disaster. There was always this yin and yang for you of never stability of the two pieces of your life. Women are stronger and more powerful than me. That was one of the statements. So that's a really big difference in the polarity. We had to recharge the polarity of you being on the masculine pole and then these women you were dating being on that feminine pole. Some things came in of feelings of being resentful and angry. And then it would manifest into my life feels empty and pointless. We had to rewire all of those, pull them out, let them go. Here they are. Now we can look at them and see, well, this is the problem that's been keeping me in these problem relationships. And now I'm ready for something new. So the things that we brought in where I'm nurtured by differences between myself and women. There are lots of ways of pleasing women. I'm valuable to them. My partner treats me with love. And then there was this masculine piece of I like taking action to secure what's needed. I'm willing to be the strong one and take care of my role. Those were the most of the statements that we let go and the statements that we brought in. And then you had a little bit of homework that day and you had to go do an exercise of that taking action to make sure that you really recharge that masculine pole so that you were attracting the types of women that you wanted to attract in your life.
I do remember that one of the exercises that we did, modalities is what you call them, one of the modalities that we did to help release those and repattern the way that my brain was working on that was I did grow up, when I was 17 is when Dad left. And like I said, he was abusive up until then, well, through then. But I was 17 when they split up. I took on the masculine role inside the family for sure. I took on the father role and the husband role. And one of the things that we worked on in the modality that we worked on was that I had to actually imagine permission from the powerful females in my family to be a man and to be masculine. So there was a couple of my aunts that were there. My mom was certainly there. My grandma was there. And I had to imagine them saying, yes, it's okay. We want you to be the masculine man. We want you to take on the masculine role. That was a very interesting thing. And I tell you, it's had profound effect in this last 30 days. I have noticed a shift in the way that I deal with my clients. Like I'm far more direct, still incorporating the kindness that I appreciate about myself, but I'm far more direct and I don't let people walk all over me. And I don't let people, I don't do things that I'm not comfortable with or that I don't want to do. For example, I was just out on a lunch date with somebody and she suggested that we watch a movie together, and it was a movie that I have absolutely no interest in because I find the subject matter abhorrent. And in the past, I probably would have been like, just to kind of please her, been like, yeah, okay, well, we can do that. It's like I'll self-sacrifice and I'll do something that I don't want to do in order to try to maintain or at least gain a relationship with this female. As soon as she said, I was like, oh, you'd be hard pressed to ever get me to watch that movie. And here's why. And then I looked back at that about an hour later. I was like, wow, that was something that wouldn't have happened. That was something that wouldn't have happened prior to that session. It's fascinating. Like I say, often I don't remember what we work on, but when I look at what's going on in my present life, I can say that's the effect of the work that I did.
Absolutely. And that's how quickly it works. You were on that date 2 weeks later, maybe? Yeah. When you bring in that permission from the ancestors, when you saw all of your aunts and your mom and all of these women in your family, these ancestors who actually brought these patterns in through your DNA and through the things that you saw and experienced as you were growing up, this is one of those things you were talking about, Rebecca, of like, where do you go for this community of people to support you? Well, our biggest support in life is our ancestors. And if you can get their permission to grow and to heal and to learn and to prosper, whew, it is giant. My dad's side of the family is Native American. And when I do visualizations with ancestral healing, I don't know who it is, but there is a big chief who is standing at the top of the waterfall, probably, but he is always there. He's got the headdress, he's got the full feathers, he's got the whole, and it's always a shadow, but he's there and he's got something in his hand and he's just like, do it, like to everyone down the line. And it's so powerful and amazing. It makes me, I'm always like, oh, there he is when I start visualizing. And it's very, very cool.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And just to be clear, like my aunts were not abusive. My mom was not abusive. These weren't women that had also mistreated me that I suddenly needed permission with, but there was something energetically that either was passed down to me or that I just decided when I was young that needed to be cleared up. It was fascinating. I love the big chief. You told me about that before. That is so cool. It's like,
it's so
yes.
fun when I see him. I'm like, we're getting something done right now. Here he is.
And are you able to use that when you need strength? Like, is that something you can like call upon?
So yes, that I have brought that in just within the last few weeks myself, because I've been doing these talks, live conversations about healing trauma. And I was getting really nervous. I was telling my stories, and there was a lot of things that were happening inside my body. And so now when I walk into situations like that, I visualize him behind me, and he's like, boom, let's go. Let's do this. It's time to end it.
Ooh, yeah. Wow. So we've talked about, well, my own personal effect here, and then tying into what Rebecca's experience with some men in her life are like this whole world of like a masculine versus, not masculine versus, this whole world of masculine and feminine polarity. And you've talked about trauma and how you like to help people with trauma. First of all, like what kinds of trauma are we talking about? Is it just something very severe? Is it sexual, physical? Is there other types of things that people can deal with inside this work?
There's a lot of things that people can deal with inside this work. My main focus is people that have experienced some sort of sexual trauma is usually what comes up for my clients. I have a program, I'm calling it CLEAR, CLEARR. It's a 6-step program, year-long, to move from this space where you've been victimized and you've been hurt by people, and you can move into this space. Let's get clear on your next direction, on your next life. Let's meet yourself again, because we lose our creativity, our joy, our love, our zest for life when we've experienced these things in the past. So the steps are, I'll just say what CLEAR stands for. It's creativity. It's not necessarily in this order. Creativity, love, that's going to be your self-love. Empowerment. So now let's get out of these places where we keep repeating these patterns of people hurting us. Awareness, that's self again as well. Relationships. So now we're going to start to look at, how is this affecting your partnerships? How is it affecting your friendships? How is it affecting your business relationships? And then the final aspect is retreat, the second R in CLEAR. And we move through the full year doing this one-on-one work, and then it culminates in this week-long group retreat where we have this, you want to talk about community, is these people coming together for this immersive experience where everyone is on the same path of trying to better themselves and better their lives and better their relationships.
Talk about a group of safe people. That sounds like heaven to me.
It absolutely is. And for me, from my aspect as I'm facilitating it, my absolute favorite part is I get to watch these people physically transform, because I'm with them 24 hours, not 24, they're sleeping on their own. I'm with them 12 hours, 7 days, and I watch this space in between their eyebrows, this space around their eyes. I watch their necks and their shoulders, everything just release and move into this loving space for themselves and relaxation as they're releasing all of these emotional weights and toxins throughout the week.
That sounds lovely.
Heather had one of these retreats in September last year, and I was able to go to that. And I can say firsthand that I think that my eyebrow had that little space between my eyebrows had to, cleared up a little bit from the permafrown. And the people that we were there with, or that I was there with, the other people that Heather was working with, astounding to the friendships that were created in 7 days, the connection that was created in 7 days, the things we talked about in 7 days. And everybody was just in that, we were talking earlier about a community, like it was Heather has the ability to create a space and to hold a place for everybody to have this immediate sense of community. I don't think it was a day, Heather, before people started opening up and talking. And there was not like, don't get me wrong, this is not like people who are just like wanted to put on blast all of their problems. There was at least half the people there were those that were just kind of like arms folded across the chest, closed off and saying, well, I'll see what this is all about. And so it was really amazing to watch and to feel that kind of energy and that kind of love and compassion inside the room with people. There was only one other person that I knew. Everybody else there was a stranger to me. And it was really a fun experience. And it was in a paradise.
That's always a
Well,
bonus.
what a bonus, right? Actually, I remember when you had that retreat, I was so excited to go and I just couldn't make it work in my calendar. So now that you're having one in April, I am signed up and I'm bringing some of my team. Woohoo!
So exciting.
So yeah, I can't wait to party and vacation with you guys and get my brain all scrubbed up again and reconnect with myself. I love this. And I love that it's not just for people with trauma, right? Because this is trauma is important and it's useful to know how your body and your emotional state reacts to trauma so that you don't have to castrate yourself for these things that are perfectly natural, for these reactions that of course you're having. Of course you're having a hard time sleeping. Of course this is hard. But as people start to be aware of that and to have more self-compassion, in my experience, these processes of changing which patterns you're resonating with, what for me at least, what I am still mentally, what models I'm mentally working from has been incredibly helpful in taking some bigger and bigger steps in my world. So pretty soon, I expect to be having both of you over for a housewarming party for my new amazing place. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yay!
Talk about big steps.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't have to be for trauma. If you have a way that you want to up-level your life, we can do it. There's usually always a reason that we can clean up of why things aren't going or flowing the way that you want them to flow.
That's why I think CLEAR is such a great acronym, Heather. You know,
Okay.
any sort of area that you just want to get clearer or have, well, actually it's clearer even. It's CR. Yeah, see, 2 R's in there. You know, get clearer or find some focus inside. We can use your work to help with that. I think we're talking about two different things right now, right? We're talking about a retreat that you have in April, like the one that I went to in September. By the way, I don't think I know this because I'm actually going to the one with in April as well. I'll be there too, Rebecca. So you've got a retreat in April. It's February. So 2 months from now, little more than 2 months, we leave for Mexico again.
Yes.
And then you're also talking about this CLEAR program, which is outside of this retreat coming up in April, but it would start as soon as somebody signs up, and it would be a year-long retreat or a year-long program that ends in another retreat next February, correct?
Yes. Right now is when I am accepting applications for that year-long program because it is February and the next retreat is in February. So we're going to have 36 one-on-one sessions. We need the year to take care of that, at least 3 per month. And then we get that February retreat at the end where we have the full-on immersive experience. So it is 2 different things that we're talking about. There is one of these retreats coming up in April. So my intention is to offer that year-long program 2 times per year and then have 2 retreats on different ends of the year, if that makes sense.
Awesome. So somebody could either work with you for 36 sessions over the coming year and then go to a retreat wherever that will be held, but probably in a paradise next February, or they can come to this retreat without ever having worked with you before. Is that correct? They can come to the one in April?
That is correct. Right now, there's 2 people signed up in April that I have never worked with and I have never met. And the last one in September, there was 3 that I had never worked with. So it's a blend of past, present, and future clients. And you can start there or you can end there and or you can continue there, put it that way.
Well, I, for one, am very excited, especially right now in Seattle with the gray in the winter. Mexico is calling my name.
For sure. Montana is about 20 degrees. So February is the perfect time to get out of Montana and go to Paradise. All of the retreats will be in Paradise. That is a guarantee.
So I was just thinking about the beginning of our discussion. We were talking about masculine, feminine polarity. And on the masculine side, Rebecca, you had spoken to, before we started recording, to some of the people in your life, the men in your life, you're seeing not taking responsibility for themselves, being in the victim mindset, that sort of thing. And when I think about the work that Heather does, and being somebody in a masculine role, and it's not just the masculine role, it's actually in a powerful person role. Anybody that wants to be a powerful person, masculine or feminine, actually has the responsibility to make sure that they're doing this kind of work with Heather. I think with Heather. I'm biased, but I think with Heather specifically. But I would say in general, to make sure that they're doing this kind of work, because we cannot let that waterfall of life energy continue to be dammed up. We have to, on a collective consciousness, start releasing those logs and start letting that life force flow to ourselves and to the people that follow us, to the generations that follow us. I think there's a responsibility that we all have to do this sort of thing.
And I might add, if you're not quite ready to go on a retreat, but you still want to have some kind of epiphany with this material today, find a group of safe people. Who can you be safe and vulnerable with? And start having conversations. Be curious, ask questions, listen, and see what you come up with, because that's as good a place as any to start your growth.
Community is so, so important. So Heather, if they were ready to start doing this work with you, where would they find you?
They can find me on the web at www.shiftingsands4health. It's the number 4. Shiftingsands4health.com is my main website. There's a link there for the retreat, Consciously Connected. There's also a link for my Meeting Yourself Again program. I have a bio on there and all kinds of information. There's some blogs.
I am really looking forward to seeing you, Heather, in April.
I'm looking forward to seeing you and Rebecca.
I'm looking forward to seeing both of you and the sunshine.
On the beach.
On the
beach. This place, it's a place called Xinalani. It's, what is it, Xini?
Yeah, it's like an SH, Xinalani.
Yeah, Xinalani. You fly into Puerto Vallarta, you take a water taxi about 40 minutes across the bay, and it is quiet, it is lush, beautiful beach. Oh my God, it's an amazing place. I would go there just on vacation, let alone get 7 days of doing some amazing, feel good type work. So, and the food, oh my God, the food is all provided. I don't remember. I think there was one dessert that I didn't like, but other than that, I don't think there was anything, which is odd for me that I wouldn't like a dessert. But it was like an avocado dessert that I was just like, it's all right.
That was one of my favorite ones.
But I can't speak. Yeah, it was really a great time and great environment, great food, great everything.
This resort is an eco-friendly location, and it's set in this tiny town of 500 people. It's the perfect mix between jungle and ocean. The people that work there are family. They're almost all of them cousins. They make you feel like family. They know your name. They know your dietary restrictions. They are there to serve, and it's just beautiful.
Wow. Now I'm drooling.
60 more days.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we have 2 spots left for the retreat in April. So if you're ready, it's time to sign up right now.
Oh, there's only 2 left.
Correct.
Excellent. So
all right,
people. Okay, you two, thank you so much for being on the show. It's such a pleasure to have you back anytime I get you, Shawn. And Heather, I'm glad we got to have you back for your 2nd episode.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do for you as a thank you for this?
Well, I'm already going to Paradise with you. So I don't know. I'm pretty blissed out as it is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Woohoo.
We'll see you next time.
Hey there, Pleasure Seeker. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Here at Pleasure Central Radio, we love using conscious communication, science geekery, and copious amounts of true pleasure to improve our partnerships, our money, and our love lives. And we hope you do too. If you loved what you heard here, we'd love a review. You can do this easily on podcast players like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it's an easy way to help more people discover the show without you having to actually bring it up with them. To hear other episodes of the podcast and get notified immediately when a new episode is released, follow me on your favorite podcast player. Find out more and get in touch at pleasurecentralradio.com. Your thought to ponder today is,
because that happened to me, that doesn't mean that I'm not powerful. That doesn't mean that I have to stay quiet. That doesn't mean that I can't stand up for myself, etc. By detaching ourselves from that meaning, by no longer resonating with that meaning, we're now free to operate in the way that we're supposed to operate inside the world.